The doctrine of superiority and division. 1. Perceived superiority. Those who adopt and internalize the doctrine of evil often develop a sense of superiority. This belief stems from their perceived freedom to act without moral constraints, which they view as a mark of strength or enlightenment. They see themselves as being above the common person, who they consider bound by moral or ethical rules. This superiority complex allows them to rationalize their harmful behaviors, seeing them as expressions of their elevated status. The us versus them narrative. Central to this mindset is the creation of a divisive narrative that separates the world into us, those who are enlightened or superior, and them, those who are considered inferior or expendable. This narrative is essential for maintaining their sense of superiority, as it dehumanizes those outside their group. By viewing others as fundamentally different and lesser, they justify their exploitation and mistreatment of these others. 3. Seeing people as cattle to exploit. With this us versus them mentality, individuals who honor this doctrine begin to see people outside their group not as fellow human beings, but as resources to be used and discarded. They view others as mere cattle, beings with no intrinsic value other than what can be extracted from them. This perspective leads to exploitation, manipulation, and harm, all of which are justified by the belief that those being exploited are lesser or somehow deserving of their fate. 4. Dehumanization as a tool of control. Dehumanization is a key element of this doctrine. By stripping away the humanity of others, these individuals can act without guilt or remorse. This dehumanization not only allows them to exploit others without moral conflict, but also serves as a tool of control, as it reinforces the power dynamic between the superior and the inferior. 5. Maintenance of the superiority illusion. To sustain this illusion of superiority, individuals who embrace this doctrine often impose strict hierarchies and rigid social structures. These structures are designed to perpetuate the us versus them divide and to ensure that those who are deemed superior remain in control. Any challenge to this hierarchy is seen as a threat to their power and is often met with hostility or violence. 6. Justification of exploitation. The exploitation of others is not just tolerated, but is often seen as a rightful exercise of power. Those who consider themselves superior believe that their actions are justified by their elevated status. In their view, the suffering or loss of those deemed inferior is either irrelevant or seen as necessary for maintaining their dominance. Reflective thought. This perspective on how individuals who honor the doctrine of evil view themselves and others provides insight into the dangers of unchecked superiority complexes and divisive ideologies. It highlights the ease with which dehumanization and exploitation can become normalized when people are seen as mere objects or resources rather than as equals with intrinsic value. As we reflect on this, it's important to consider how such narratives and beliefs can take root in societies and what can be done to counteract them. How can we recognize and challenge the us versus them mentality in our own lives or in broader social contexts? What steps can we take to reaffirm the humanity and intrinsic value of every individual, regardless of their perceived differences? Understanding these dynamics encourages us to be vigilant against ideologies that promote division and exploitation and to work towards fostering empathy, equality, and respect for all people.